Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's daf is Nazir Yud Aleph, and we begin right on top at the Mishnah. Maz gulois hakois. This fellow was served a glass of wine. V'amar, and he responds by saying, "Leave me alone. Hareini Nazir mimenu. I am Nazir from this." Nazir means I'm distancing myself, from this or that. In this case, we say, since it was actually wine, Hareini Nazir mi menu. Harei Nazir. This makes him a Nazir. And not only is he going to be off wine, but he's going to be considered a regular Nazir. No wine, no haircutting, no tumas meis. Mas b'isha achas. In fact, there was a story with a certain woman. She was on the way to becoming shikar. She was overloaded with wine, and they served her even more wine. And she responds by saying, Hareini Nazira mimenu. I am a Nazira from this wine. In this case, Amru Chachamim did not consider this response as a declaration, as a commitment of Nazirus. Rather, Amru Chachamim lo niskav nazu. All she meant was, she just wanted them to get off her case. Harayo like carbon, this wine is to me usr like a carbon, like another. That's all, leave me alone. Don't pressure me to drink more wine. The kasha is, Masa Lister, since when do you bring a story to overturn your proposition? What do you mean? Amras Resha. First, the Mishnah begins by saying, when he was offered a glass of wine, and he responds by saying, Hareini Nazir mimenu. What's the halacha? Is he a Nazir? Yes, Harei a Nazir. Even though he was just responding, he was just referencing this bottle of wine. Once he says Hareini Nazir, that's it. He is a full-fledged Nazir. And then you come along and tell me a story which contradicts that conclusion. V'hadar tani. Then the Mishnah continues with a ma'aseh b'isha achas, who refused the offer of wine by saying Hareini Nazira mimenu, and the conclusion was, the verdict was, she's not a Nazir. You're contradicting yourself. Alma Bahayu the Asr. What does Mishnah tell us? She can't have this wine. It's Asr like a carbon. An expression of neder. But she can have other wine. When she gets sober and is interested in drinking more wine, she can. She's not a Nazir. And that contradicts the earlier statement. That responding, that expressing oneself in this kind is considered a commitment to Nazirus. Answer: the Mishnah is meant to be learned as though it's missing some words, and read it like this. We start with Maz gulois hakois. He was offered a glass of wine. V'amar, he responds, Hareini Nazir mimenu. What is the verdict? Harei Nazir. This is an expression of Nazirus. V'im shikaru. But if he's already intoxicated, he's at the breaking point, doesn't want any more. V'amar Hareini Nazir mimenu, when he expresses himself in this way, since he's just trying to defend himself, that's his motive. Leave me alone, don't pressure me to drink more wine. And therefore we say Einoi Nazir. He's not really trying to be a Nazir, and therefore he does not become a Nazir. He must keep off this, glass of wine. My time of why? Commander Omar, Harei like carbonu. It's as though he said this thing should be usher to me like a carbon. That's it. Rather than a general triggering of a Nazirus experience. The question is, well, if all he's trying to do is make this thing usher on him with a din neder, let him say as much. Why did he use lashon Nazir? Suffer, because he's figuring maisin liachrino mitzaranli. If all I would say is, well, this thing is usher to me, they'll bring me another glass of wine and they'll pressure me to drink more. Therefore, emalahu hamilsa. Let me just employ this straightforward language, the psika lahu, so that it's clear to them that I'm not interested in drinking, but I don't really want to be a Nazir. And on that, the Mishnah brings a story to support this distinction, an Isha Achas who was being pressured to drink, all she wanted was to fend off these fellows. And even though she used a Lashon Nazir, she didn't mean as such. She meant just, I don't really want to have this wine, and therefore it doesn't make her a Nazir. So bottom line is, a fellow is offered wine, he says, Hareini Nazir Mimenu, it makes him a Nazir. But if he's being pressured, he's already shikr, and he's not interested. In this case, he was just using it as a ploy. And even though he used the Lashon Nazir, it doesn't mean Nazirus, rather it means he's Asur in this glass of wine, but nothing else. Because, that's the derech. Taisa says, derech b'nei Adam, to give the shikar a hard time, to pressure him, to get him more drunk. He knew better, and therefore he presented himself as a Nazir, but he didn't really mean it seriously. Says the Mishnah, Nazir, he says, I'm going to be a Nazir on condition that I can drink wine, or that I can become a tummy to a mace. He wants to be a Nazir on the one hand. He doesn't want to live up to the Nazir standards. What's the halacha? Is he a Nazir? Yes. Harei is a Nazir. He becomes a full-fledged Nazir v'asr bikulan, and he must adhere to all restrictions of a regular Nazir. According to one pshat in the Gemara, the reason is because he's being masna. His conditioning, al masha kasav b'Torah, is trying to revise a Torah concept which we cannot do. And therefore it triggers a regular Nazirus. Next case. If he says, Yedeani sheyesh Nazirus. When I said Hareini Nazir, now I knew that there is something called Nazirus, who's meant to conform to the halachas of a Nazir. No haircutting, and no becoming Tami Lameis. Right? So he said Hareini Nazir, and after a while he says, when I said that, I knew it involves certain things, but I didn't know one important thing. That wine is asur. I didn't know that. That's very important to me. And I didn't really accept that upon myself. What's the halacha? So he accepted certain things and not others. What is the halacha when a person accepts upon himself a partial acceptance? We had this machlekes a couple of days ago. Between the Chachamim who say even a partial acceptance triggers an entire Nazir experience. Hareza asur. But Reb Shimon disagrees. Reb Shimon matter because he holds based on a pasuk. It needs to be a comprehensive commitment. Third case, a person says Hareini Nazir, and he adds, he says, I thought that it wouldn't really commit me all the way. When I said Hareini Nazir way back, yesterday, I knew that it imposes wine drinking restrictions on everybody else, except for me. I was figuring, surely the Rabbanim will give me a heter to drink wine. I can't live without it. I can't live without wine. Or he says, look, I figured the Chachamim would give me an exemption, would give me a pass to involve myself with Mason. I figured they'll have pity on me. They'll recognize the need, my need to be involved with Mason. I'm a member of the Chevra Kadir. That's my business, to be Kover Mason. And he figures he would get that exception. I can't otherwise. It's like an oinus. I can't live without wine. I can't live without Mason. What happens now? Harei mutter, according to Chachamim, he's totally not a Nazir. But Reb Shimon Oyser, he says he is a Nazir. Now, it would seem that the names here are flipped around. In the previous case, case 2 of the Mishnah, a partial acceptance, Chachamim considered a full acceptance, Reb Shimon not. And here we have the other way around. A partial acceptance, Chachamim considered a regular Nazir. Sorry, Chacham say it's mutter, and Reb Shimon is the one who says asur. This seeming contradiction will be addressed in the Gemara. So let's go back to case number 1 of the 3 cases mentioned in the Mishnah, which was Hareini Nazir al manas she'ehei shoyse yain. I'm becoming a Nazir on condition I can drink wine. Mishnah says, you can't say that. We ignore your stipulation. You're a Nazir who keeps all the halachas. The question is, one second. Let's proceed to the next case. A partial acceptance, according to Rabbi Shimon, doesn't work. And therefore we have a kash. Like Nami Rabbi Shimon Bereisha. Why doesn't Rabbi Shimon disagree with the first case as well? He had only accepted partial Nazirus. It shouldn't work. Amar Rabbi Shimon Levi, you're right. Chaluk Haya Rabbi Shimon after Reisha. The same achlekas that applies to the next case applies to the Reisha as well. And when the Mishnah says Rabbi Shimon, matir in the second case, it's going back on the previous two cases. Ravina disagrees. Ravina Amar Bereisha Polig Rabbi Shimon. In the first case, Rabbi Shimon would never disagree. Meaning, even according to Rabbi Shimon, it's a full-fledged Nazirus. My time of why? Answer is, Mishum Dahavali Masna Makshakasa B'Teira. His fellow, who says, I'm going to be a Nazir except for what? You're making a condition, trying to revise, rework a halacha, a din, a concept that the Torah packages. Otherwise, you can't do that. A person imposes a Tanai on a halacha in the Torah, Tanai batal, it doesn't work. The Tanai becomes cancelled. We ignore your stipulation, and therefore you consider it a regular Nazir. This is in the first case, as opposed to the second case, where he wasn't trying to tinker with Nazirus per se. He knew that, Nazirus involves X and Y. He just didn't know about Z. Right? He didn't know that there's an Isra of wine. So in that case, Reb Shimon says, well, you haven't accepted upon yourself proper Nazirus, you're a mutter. As opposed to the ratio, where he knows what Nazirus involves. He's trying to get out of it. He's trying to make a Tanai. That doesn't work. A Tanai is null and void, and therefore he's a regular Nazir. So according to Ravina, it's Masna Amashakasa B'Torah. The Tanai is null and void. And even Reb Shimon agrees he's a regular Nazir. According to Reb Shimon Levi, even in this case there's a machlekes. And according to Reb Shimon, he's not a Nazir, because it was only a partial acceptance of Nazirus. Rabbi Shimon Levi Amalach proceeds the Gemara. Rabbi Shimon Levi did not consider this stipulation to be a Masna Mashachas B'Torah. Why? Amalach, because Rabbi Shua holds Hai Almanas Kechutz Dami. When a fellow says, I'm going to be a Nazir, but I'll drink wine, that's like saying, I want to only be a part Nazir. It's a partial acceptance. Right? You can't be a Nazir and be mutter and wine. It's just incompatible, right? So when he says, I want to be a Nazir, but I want to drink wine, in effect what he's saying is, of the three elements of Nazirus, wine, haircutting, and tumas meis, I'm only accepting upon myself two. The two aspects of Nazirus which I can handle, that I'll take. So it's a partial acceptance. It's not a modification. I'm not trying to create a new type of Nazirus. I'm not going to be a regular Nazir but be mutter and yain. That's called masna mashakaz b'terah. I'm not going to be a regular Nazir. I'm only accepting upon myself this aspect of Nazirus and this aspect of Nazirus. Kechutz tamid. It's like I'm making an exception. I'm not going to be a Nazir pertaining to that. So theoretically, this can work. When can't you make it tonight? If it's davar hakasa b'terah, when you're trying to modify, trying to tinker with the actual, halach. I'm marrying you. I'm making kedushin on condition I'm not committed, to certain things which the Torah requires, which the Torah considers standard, marriage commitments. That's called a t'nai against the Torah, because here you can't say it's chutz. I'm going to be married to you for A and B and not for C. You can't do that. Either you're married or you're not. So over there it's a t'nai against the Torah. So you're tinkering, you're trying to change the halacha of marriage. You want to get married, but you want to change the commitments of marriage. Here, Nazirus has 3 parts to it. Right? So I want to accept upon myself A and B and not C. I want to be a limited Nazir. So it's like the case that we spoke the other day. A person is going to say, I'm going to be a Nazir from haircutting, a Nazir from just no wine drinking. It's a limited Kabbalah. And that's the machlokes. Chachamim say that's enough to trigger a regular Nazirus. And Rabbi Shimon would say no. If you're only being Makabel A, B, and not C, that does not trigger Nazirus. And that's why Shimon Levi says, well, in the first case as well, we're going to have the same machlokes between the Chachamim, who trigger a regular Nazirus, and Rav Shimon, who does not. Whereas Ravina says, this is called a Masna Mashakasa B'Torah, and it doesn't work at all. The Tanai doesn't work, and we ignore the stipulation, it becomes a regular Nazir according to all Shittas. Tanik Vasei de Ravina, in fact, we have a right from our Braisa to Ravina's approach. Omar Hareini Nazir. Person gets up, Hareini Nazir, Almanas She'ir She'ir Yain. Umatam Alamesim, on condition I can do all those things. Harei Nazir becomes a standard Nazir, Vasir Bikulan, which includes all those limitations and restrictions. Why doesn't his Tanai work? Answer: He's making a Tanai to oppose a halach in the Torah. Tanai bottle is the right to Ravina. In the last case, we have a fellow who says, look, true, I declared my intention, my willingness to become a Nazir, but I figured Chachamim would give me a pass, would give me a heter to drink wine. What happens? Tanakama says, there's no Nazirus. He's mutter, totally mutter. Rabbi Shimon says he's asur. He becomes a Nazir, which is exactly the opposite of their opinions in the middle case of the Mishnah, by a partial acceptance of Nazirus. Va'amras Reisha asur, Rabbi Shimon matter. In the previous case, case 2, where it was a partial acceptance, Tanakama says he's a regular Nazir, Rabbi Shimon is matter. And here we flip the names around. Answers the Gemara, you're right. Let's reverse it so it matches up. A manami. Likewise, in the third case, we'll say Hareza Asur. Tanakama says we impose ordinary Nazirus on him. Reb Shimon Matir says no, because after all, he didn't really mean to accept a full Nazirus. A partial, incomplete acceptance is not a Kabbalah. If say another terrorist to the Kash, leave it alone. Don't switch around the names. Question is, it's a stira to the previous case. Awesome. The answer is over there. Reisha in the previous case, case 2 of the Mishnah. Kigoin, the Nazar Mechada. Right? The fellow says, I became a Nazar without knowing that it includes a prohibition against wine drinking. So he made a Nazirus only from one, It was a limited Kabbalah. So that's the machlokes. The Rabbanon da Amri da Afilu le Nazar Ella me'echad me'avei Nazir. Rabbanon hold, even if a person is Nazir from one aspect of a Nazirus, that triggers a Nazirus for us, and therefore he's Asr. The Rab Shimon da Amar Ashiyazim mikulam mutar. Whereas according to Rab Shimon, who says that you have to accept everything, otherwise, it's all or nothing. So since it was an incomplete acceptance, he's mutar. So that's the standard machlokes. That's understood. Let's move on to the Seifa. We are speaking the Nadar Mikulu. Unlike the previous case where he was only neither part, here he really accepted upon himself everything. A regular Nazir. But then, he had second thoughts, realizing he can't survive without wine. He can't survive without Mason. So he went to the Chacham to undo some aspect of his Kabbalah. The wine aspect, or the Tumas Meis aspect. V'ichel mechad. Right? So he goes and he's shoyl on one element of the Nazirus, which he had accepted upon himself. So it was a full Kabbalah, but now he's trying to retract by removing one aspect of his Kabbalah. So now it's going to be a catch-22. It's going to work perfectly, beautifully, l'shitasam. The same Rabbanan who say that originally when a person, not in this case, but theoretically, when a person is makabel only one aspect of Nazirus, that's enough to make him a regular Nazir. So, making reference to even just a single element of the comprehensive experience is enough to sort of pull the product off the shelf. Right? Take one, take all. Therefore, says the Gemara, listen to this. On the flip side, suppose he was makabel everything on Sunday, and then on Monday he comes to be shoyl on just one element of the nether. Ki mitchel mechadi minai, when he comes to retract even just one element, it's all or nothing. Ishtari, he becomes mutter in everything. Isn't that beautiful? One and all go together. You can't separate, you can't divide. Just as in terms of Kabbalah, a partial acceptance is tantamount to a full acceptance. Likewise, in the last case of the Mishnah, when he had a full acceptance, but now he's going to retract, to be shoyl on part of that Nazirus. If he's shoyl on part, it's a retraction from the whole thing. The whole house falls apart. The whole arrangement collapses. It's one single, entity. Either it all stands or nothing. That's the Rabbanon. Likewise, on the flip side, according to Rabbi Shimon, who says, initially, when you are makabel in Nazirus, it only works if you makabel everything. A partial acceptance doesn't work. So you can't make reference to Nazirus by just referencing part of it. It has to be a full acceptance. Likewise, in our case, the third case of the Mishnah, when he did accept upon himself everything yesterday, but today he comes and has charot on just one of them. I want wine back. Ki mitchel nami mahu. So even when it comes and he's shoyl on a single element, it doesn't work ad mitchel mikulu. It has no value until he's shoyl on everything. It's one big package. That explains why Reb Shimon says he's asr. There's no she'ela unless he retracts everything. So question. We have case 2, where it was a partial acceptance. Chacham say he's totally asr. Reb Shimon says he's mutter. We have case 3, where the names were flipped around. How does that work? So according to this teretz in the Gemara, it works beautifully. It's the other side of the coin. Here he's retracting. According to Rabbanan, a partial acceptance triggers everything. A partial retraction triggers an avalanche on the whole Nazirus. He's mutter. Reb Shimon goes the other way. You have to have a full acceptance to trigger Nazirus. So in this case, when he's retracting, just part of it doesn't work. You have to address it entirely in order to affect it. Therefore, he remains asr. Diba is saying a third option to explain this last halacha. Again, this fellow was perfectly agreeable yesterday when he was makabel on himself to be a Nazir. A day later he realized, 1 second, it's my parnasa, it's my livelihood, it's my life. No wine? Impossible. It's considered like an oinus, beyond his control. How do we treat a nether in a oinus situation? You may recall back in the Dharam we discussed nidrei oinsin, and we had a machlekes. Our machlekes today matches another machlekes Shmuel and Ravasi. This none, we had a Mishnah back in the Dharam. The following 4 nedarim are totally mutter. Nidrei zeruzin, just a nether to motivate somebody, not to be taken seriously. Nidrei havai, just an exaggeration. Nidrei shgagos, a mistaken nether. Nidrei oinsin, there's an oinus involved. V'amar vidam Ravasi. Even these 4 nedarim, which seem to be totally mutter, it's not true. You have to go to a chacham to undo it. It would seem that it's been the Rabbanon. You have to go treat it like a regular nether. You can't just walk away from the nether. You have to go through a process to undo it. That was Rabbi Yehuda, the name of Ravasi. And Rabbi Yehuda himself continues, when I presented this chiddush to Shmuel that you need a she'elu l'chacham, he says, no, absolutely not. Take a look at the Lashon HaMishnah. Tana ketani. The Tana clearly said, these 4 are mutter, hitiru chachamim. Totally mutter. They never take off to begin with. How can you suggest otherwise? Vat amres tzrichan she'elu l'chacham. Chachamim, you're telling me that you have to go to the chacham to undo them? Totally mutter. So bottom line, a nidrei einus, some say a totally mutter, Some say you have to go to the Chacham to undo it. That corresponds to our machlekes here as well. This fellow is stuck. He's an oinus. I can't live without wine. I can't live without kvuras mason. Rabbanon who say it's totally mutter, Sarik is Shmuel. They're like Shmuel, it's totally mutter, leave it alone. But Rab Shimon who says it's asr, Rav Asi. He was like Rav Asi that it's asr until she'ela, until you go and do it with a chacham. That's all he meant in the Mishnah. So bottom lines, we have a Mishnah with 3 cases. In the first case, I'm a Nazir on condition that I can drink wine. Mishnah says he's a Nazir. An asr in everything. In the second case, I'm a Nazir. And then he says, well, I didn't realize that it includes wine drinking. Tanakama says he's totally asr. Rab Shimon says mutter. In the third case, Hareini Nazir. And then he says, well, it's an oinus. I can't live without it. He's off the hook. Rab Shimon says he's asr. The Gemara explains the Mishnah like this. In the first case, I'm a Nazir on condition I will drink wine. He's totally asr. Ravina says, Masna mashakasa b'Torah. Therefore, we ignore his Tanai. Rabbi Shimon Levi says, it isn't necessarily considered Masna mashakasa b'Torah. It's a chutz, it's an exception, it's a different type of Naziris. It's a partial acceptance, which matches up with the next case in the Brisa, in the Mishnah. A partial acceptance. Tanakama says, triggers a full Isser. Rabbi Shimon says it wasn't a comprehensive commitment. He's mutter. In the third case, he realizes after the fact that it's just impossible for him to hold up to conform. Tanakama says he's okay, he's mutter. Shimon says he's asr. We have 3 ways to explain. Either we flip around the names to make it match with the previous case, or we say it's a question of she'ela. He was only she'el on part of it. Chacham say it's a total heter on the whole Nazirus. And Rav Shimon says, well, until you she'el on everything, the she'ela has no effect. And the third pshat is considered nidre einsin. And the Kama is simply saying, look, it's mutter because it's nidre einis. Rav Shimon says, I understand, but you have to go to the Chacham. Otherwise it's us. Continues the Mishnah, Hareini Nazir ve'olai legaleach Nazir. A fellow gets up and says, I'm going to be a Nazir. Number 1. Number 2, ve'olai legaleach Nazir. It is incumbent upon me to sponsor the giluach. Giluach means the karbanos that another Nazir will bring upon completion of his experience. So a person is committing to 2 things. I myself will be a Nazir. Number 2, I will sponsor the karbanos of my friend. So who said this? Reuven. V'shama chaveri. Another fellow standing there, Shimon, overhears this, and he gets inspired. He wants to follow. V'amar v'ani. And he says, me too. And he continues, V'olai legaleach Nazir. And I too will sponsor karbanos of a Nazir. So we have 2 people, Reuven and Shimon, committing to the same thing. Each one will be a Nazir on his own and sponsor somebody else's karbanos. If they're smart, they should cross-reference. If they're wise, they should simply sponsor each other's karbanos. If they're not as such, then they'll have to sponsor other Nazirim. There's a famous story with Tzaddik Rav Shraga Feivel Mendelowitz, the founder of Torah V'das, Torah Masera. 2 boys are walking into his classroom, each one holding a chair for himself. He turns to them and says, dear boys, if you're smart, you'll offer your chairs to each other. This way you'll each be doing a chesed. By the way. Okay, continues the Gemara. Iboilu, the Bnei Yeshiva had a following shaila. Shama chaver va'amar va'ani. Mahu. See, in the Mishnah we have Reuven saying, Hareini Nazir, ve'olai legaleach Nazir. Okay. And his friend repeated word for word. What if his friend would have simply said va'ani? Stopped right there, without adding va'olai legalech nazir. Mau, how do we treat this expression? Is it a carbon copy? Va'ani, the word va'ani, akuli dibura mashma. Is it alluding to the entire expression of Reuven, which basically obligates Shimon to, number 1, be a Nazir himself, and number 2, to sponsor somebody else's karbanos? Or perhaps the word va'ani is a limited expression. It only makes reference to part of Ruvain's commitment. He's only emulating part of it. If you should wish to suggest that, in fact, apalgid dibura mashma, the word vani is limited, it's only going on part of Ruvain's words. Which part of his word? Which part of his statement? Aresha on the first part, committing to be a Nazir. Oh yeah, Seif on the second part, committing to sponsoring Karbanis. To Hashma, here comes a Raya. The Mishnah says, after Ruvain's expression, we have Shimon saying, Vani, and he adds. He troubles himself to add. V'olai legalech Nazir. Mishnah says, you pick him, right? Megach and Zezed, they sponsor each other. Why does he have to say Vani and then add V'olai? Midukah Vani and then V'olai would sound like it's necessary. Shma mina Vani apalgad debura. Apparently the word Vani is just limited to part of Ruvain's, donation. And therefore Shimon had to add Vani and say V'olai legalech karvan. Isn't that a raya? Sure is, says the Gemara Amr, yes. So they responded incorrect. Apalgad debura mashma. The word Vani alludes to only part of Ruvain's expression, which necessitates a further expression of V'olai legalech Nazir. But one question remains. Mihu, but still, Aresha. The word Vani alludes to only part of Ruvain's sentence. On the first part, becoming a Nazir. Oh yeah, Seifa mina. Or perhaps in the second part. Oh yeah, Seifa. Perhaps in the second part, where Ruvain is committing to sponsor. And that's what Shimon is copying. So that's a question. Answers the Gemara, that's not a question. I mean, no. You can bring a raya from that same statement again. When Shimon responds with Va'ani, and then adds Va'olai legaleach, what does that sound like? Shema mina, it's clear that the word Va'ani, al tchilas dibura mashma, is alluding to the first part of Ruvain's statement, the part where he commits to being a Nazir. Shimon is copying that by saying Vani, and then he adds, plus I want to sponsor. So it's clear that Vani is, number one, only referring to part of Ruvain's statement, and the first part of his statement, which necessitates the addition of V'olai legalech Nazir, to obligate Shimon in sponsoring a Nazir. So the Gemara sort of concluded, Vani is not a full comprehensive commitment, and only going on the first part. But the Gemara responds like this. Who says you're right? Perhaps Vani refers to everything. So when Reuben commits to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and Shimon responds, Vani, me too, it's everything. Everything's included. And the fact that the Mishnah adds V'olai, the fact that Shimon had to add V'olai, Maika Amar, V'olai B'hamilsa. It's just for emphasis. Vani, V'olai, it's just a repetition. You don't really need it. Because otherwise, Diktani Sefer, what about the next part? Later on in the Mishnah. We have Reuben saying, Harei alai legalech chatzi Nazir. Reuben is just committing to one thing, as opposed to our Mishnah. We are, number one, he committed to being a Nazir himself, and number two, to sponsor. In the next Mishnah, he's just committing to sponsor a half, the karbanes of a Nazir. V'shama chavera, Shimon overhears, he gets inspired, he follows suit. V'shama chavera, Raman, he says, Vani, alai legalech chatzi Nazir. Me too, I'm going to do half sponsoring. Well, in that case, he could have just said Vani, because Reuben was just makabel one thing, to sponsor. Shimon could have just said Vani, I'm doing the same. Why do you have to say Vani and then Alai Legalei Chatzi Nazir? So you see that people speak like that. Sometimes people, speak repetitiously. In that case, is Shimon trying to copy two things? So why would he have to speak double? Elamai Kamar Alai. So why then did he say Alai? Ba'amelsa. In this thing, meaning it's a further acceptance, a more serious acceptance. Me too, it's upon me, it's incumbent upon me. He was just, ratifying it. But it doesn't really have much meaning or value. And not necessary at all. Hachanami, here as well, perhaps in our Mishnah, Kika Amar Alai, Ba'amelsa. The reason why Shimon added V'alai to Vani, not because it's necessary, it's just for emphasis. So bottom line is, perhaps Vani would be enough to trigger everything. Because I'm copying everything that Reuven is doing. V'alai was just for emphasis. Amalei Rava responds, you can't say that. Hachi hashta. How could you say that? If you'll tell me that, in the case of our Mishnah, Shimon must add va'alai to va'ani, because va'ani is just limited. Va'alai adds a second aspect of chiv, referring to the second item of Reuven's acceptance. Bishlema reisha tzricha, so if the first part, our Mishnah, actually needs him to say va'alai, so then you could explain the sequence of the Mishnayos. Seifa, lo tzricha. The seifa is not really needed, right? So the reisha is needed, but in the seifa where Reuven only committed to one item, and Shimon was just copying that, certainly over there, vani is enough. So if you follow this formula, that although the seifa is just extra talk, but the reisha is needed, you could explain it as follows: Tani seifa d'leitzricha mishum reisha d'tzricha. Sometimes the Mishnah does that on account of the reisha where it's needed. Once we allude to that expression, we just repeat it in the seifa, even though it's not necessary in the seifa. Because remember, in the seifa, Reuven only committed to one item, where certainly Shimon could just say vani and get on with it. The Mishnah uses the word valai to match the lashon of the reisha. Eli amros reisha leitzricha, but according to you, that even in the reisha, where we're speaking about two items, vani suffices. Valai is not needed. And also seifa leitzricha. Certainly in the seifa was just one item, vani suffices. You don't need valai. Does that make sense? Tani reisha leitzricha. Does that make sense that the Mishnah in the Reisha and the Seifa in both cases will just use extra language? So if the Reisha is needed, because Va'ani is not going to commit Shimon comprehensively to all of Reuven's commitments, it's just a limited reference. Yes, to say Va'ani and Va'alai, so the Reisha is needed. Seifa is agav the Reisha. But if the Reisha is extra, and the Seifa is extra, why would the Mishnah even mention the word Va'alai? Extra words for what? So it's a raya to our shaila. Okay, let's do a quick recap. We have a fellow being offered a glass of wine. He says, already Nazir mimeno. He becomes a Nazir. The person is on the way to becoming shikar. He can't handle wine anymore. And they're pressuring him. There, it does not trigger Naziris. It's simply a way of fending off his attackers. He's usher in this wine, but he's not a Nazir. We had the next Mishnah with three cases, and we explained it in the Gemara. We had the next Mishnah, Reuven becoming a Nazir and sponsoring, Shimon repeating after him, Va'ani, Va'alai. He too is committed to the same thing. He needs to say Va'alai because Va'ani is a limited expression referring to only the first part of Reuven's idea. Therefore, he has to add Va'alai to copy him from top to bottom. Haslach Rabbah to all of us, B'suras Tevis. Hashem give us much siyata d'shmaya, amen.